Namaskar, good evening. You're watching the Newshour Agenda and I'm Swati Joshi. He was a man of few words, but he moved the nation. Ratan Tata, Chairman Emeritus of Tata Sons and a philanthropist, is no more, but his legacy lives on. His was a life that will inspire generations to dream big and ignite a commitment towards nation building. His humility, simplicity and kindness has touched millions, which is why the entire nation is mourning the demise of its icon. In this edition of Newshour at 10, we will bring you a close glimpse of Ratan Tata's personal side. From top lawyers who worked with him to celebrity chefs to employees of Tata and the survivors of 26/11 terror attack. We will speak to people from all walks of life to find out what Ratan Tata and his life meant to them. We are first joined by Mr. Harish Salve. Thank you very much for giving us your time, Mr. Salve. And in fact, this is a time when the entire nation is mourning the demise of Ratan Tata. What are your first thoughts? What is running through your mind when you heard about the demise of India's titan, Mr. Tata?
The sense of loss I feel is at so many levels. I feel, first of all, a sense of loss as an Indian. There are certain people who during their lifetime become an important pillar which upholds the structure of the country. And Ratan Tata was one of them. He was a very private person, and people don't know of what he contributed to building modern India. It's a sense of loss of a titan who built great wealth but not for himself. It's a sense of loss of a titan who built India's image outside India. It's a sense of loss of a person who today represents a dying breed, a person for whom wealth was not as important as values and his word. And I have seen Mr. Ratan Tata. Money didn't matter. His word, the word of Tatas, mattered to him. And I'll give you two examples straight away. When, after he stepped down, there was a proposal that they would close down the steel company in UK, Chorus Steel. He was very upset. He said, I gave my word to the British Prime Minister when we acquired this company that Tatas have a very large steel manufacturing infrastructure, and this company will always prosper as a part of the Tatas. We cannot close it down. Losses come and go, profits come and go, but institutions go on forever, and the word of Tatas is the word of an institution. The second example, when he acquired, when he got the Japanese to partner him in Tata Telecom, the Docomo group, and at that time they signed an agreement under which Tatas would, if necessary, buy back shares at least, I think it was half the investment, notwithstanding the losses. And when Docomo started asking for their money, wanted Tatas to buy back shares, there was a dispute raised, it went to arbitration, Tatas lost. The award was challenged, by which time Mr. Ratan Tata came back as chairperson of Tatas, chairman of Tatas, after Mr. Mistry stepped down. And the first thing he said is, withdraw this litigation. I gave my word to Docomo. We must honor it. So people like this, for whom words, for whom commitments, for whom values were more important than anything else,
And he indeed was a man of his words. You've had several opportunities to interact with Mr. Tata on multiple occasions. Would you like to share some of those memories with us, some personal anecdotes?
He came with me to the Supreme Court. We were riding in the car. He was very fond of cars. And I had a Jaguar that time. So we both sat in the rear seat of the Jaguar. And the only conversation we had for 10 minutes driving home was about the car. There was nothing discussed about the case. He used to love his cars. So I've had so many interactions. And once I had a problem in my home in Vasant Vihar. There was a big water leak. So we had for a few weeks to shift into the Taj. So they gave us a big suite to stay, Taj Delhi. And this was the suite in which Mr. Tata used to normally come and stay. And the manager of the hotel came and said that Mr. Tata is coming, sir. Can you vacate this suite for 2 days? I said, of course, most certainly. And 1 hour later, very sheepishly came to me and said, no, sir, it's perfectly all right. You don't need to go. So I said, what happened? And then he confessed. He says he told Mr. Tata that yes, the suite is being vacated for you. And he says, vacated by whom? He said, Mr. Salve is staying there with his family, but we are vacating the suite for you. And he got very annoyed. He said, why must you do this? He's staying there. Don't make him uncomfortable. Give me another suite. I'll stay somewhere else. There is no problem. This is the kind of person he was. Always, I've had discussions with him. His simplicity was striking, but his ability to grasp, when you discuss something with him, within 2 minutes, he was on top of it, and he would ask about legal issues, explain them, however complex they are. He just understood them in 2 minutes.
But what do you think set him apart? While most business leaders tend to be known for their business acumen, Mr. Tata was also known, and better known rather, for his philanthropic work. Is this the only thing that you said was unique about him that actually set him apart from the other business conglomerates, the so-called corporate giants?
If you ask me what makes Ratan Tata stand apart and stand taller from anybody else I've come across, there are a lot of people who are philanthropists. A lot of people are philanthropists. There are a lot of people who run large organizations where they touch the lives of people. But what I think, the two characteristics which made Mr. Tata stand apart from anybody else whom I have seen, and I'm not trying to, there are some very great people I have had the privilege of meeting in India, outside India, and some of them are still doing wonderful work. But at a moment like this, one recounts things which make a person stand apart. And the two qualities which so made him stand apart. One was, it was never about himself. Never about himself. You have no idea of what was done post 26/11 for the staff of Tatas. Very few people outside the organization know. I am very privileged to say I was a very small part of the structure which was created. Nobody knows what he did. And the whole idea was, there was no talk about it, because this was not about publicity. This was not about aspiring for headlines. This was about people looking up to the institution called Tatas, not a person called Ratan Tata. That was one enormous quality about this man. The other was, he was unyielding on principle. There could be no discussion with him, which would involve any, and I mean any, compromise on anything of principle. He would fight and fight to the very, very bitter end. One or two litigations which he was involved in, and which I thought were not as a forensic battle, not worth fighting. He was fighting it on a principle. And I must say, I had the privilege that if I would tell him to withdraw a case, he would listen to me, but very reluctantly and very angrily. He would always stand for a principle. He was unyielding. This is one great quality about him. So these are things about him which make him stand apart from people of his generation. He's 20 years older than me, so he was sort of slightly older generation than me. But as they say, there are some people of whom the earth is proud, of whom God is proud of having created. He's one of them.
Mr. Salve, you've represented him in court in crucial cases, whether it was the battle against the late Cyrus Mistry. One would think that, the business leaders of that stature would often be very brutal. What was Mr. Tata's conduct like during the duration of the case?
So let me tell you, if you told him there is a case involving $2 billion of cash tax dispute, he says, yes, you're there, we'll take care of it. And he'd walk off. Couldn't bother him. But if it was a case involving a matter of principle, that's where he got very involved. In the battle which followed after the removal of Mr. Mistry, he removed Mr. Mistry and everybody said he has done it because he cannot bear the idea of being out of office. How false was this assessment? Today, we have Mr. Chandrasekhar, the current chairman of Tata's, a homegrown Tata person. Which industrial house today of this value has a chairperson, has a chairman of this kind, who has nothing to do with the wealth of the company, but who has something to do with the progress and with the growth. And he is the heights to which he will take the company, I have no doubt, will be a fitting tribute to Mr. Ratan Tata's faith in him. But look at what he did. So for him, the idea that Mr. Mistry was taking the Tata Group away from the values which Tata stood for was unacceptable. And he didn't care that people would make all kinds of allegations against him. He didn't care what would happen in the corporate battles, although he was right on top. It had to be done. He did it. He did it. And he said, we have to defend this. We fought, we defended it, and we defended it successfully finally. So this is what I was telling you about this man. Salt of the earth, as they say. But, oh, what a giant.
What would you say was the influence of those interactions that you had with Mr. Tata on you? What are the qualities that you appreciate of this great man and would want to imbibe in your own life?
If I could imbibe in me 10%, just 10% of his steel resolve and 5% of his humility, I would be 100 times better than what I am today.
His resolve and his humility, and if you would, and if anybody actually would imbibe that, they would be better human beings. Thank you very much, Ms. Salve, for joining us. Thank you for sharing those experiences and memories that you had with Mr. Tata with us.